First Officer Naira Valenti stared at the holographic display, her four eyes narrowing as she rechecked the sensor data for the seventh time. The readings couldn't be correct, yet they remained unchanged with each scan. Her crystalline fingers traced the pattern displayed before her, a series of perfectly preserved footprints stretching across the caustic surface of Kepler X9. Administrator Thex needs to see this immediately, she murmured, her voice carrying the distinctive resonance of the Arcturian species. The discovery violated everything they knew about both the planet and the impossibility of what they were seeing. Within hours, the Orbital Research Station's primary chamber had filled with the planet's highest-ranking scientific minds. Administrator Thex, his aged carapace bearing the distinctive markings of a veteran xenorchaeologist, moved with deliberate grace to the center of the room. Report, First Officer Valenti, he commanded, all 6 of his sensory appendages focused on the display. The footprints were discovered during routine thermal mapping of Sector 7, Naira explained, expanding the holographic image. They extend for approximately 3 kilometers across the planet's surface, ending at what appears to be a solid rock face. The prints are unquestionably human in origin. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled scientists. Kepler X9 had been under continuous observation for over 3 centuries. Its surface, constantly bombarded by ionic storms and corrosive rain, made it impossible for any known species to survive without extensive protection. Even their most advanced environmental suits could only withstand the atmosphere for brief periods. Humans haven't been recorded in this sector for at least 50 years, Professor Kane interjected, his mechanical limbs whirring as he approached the display. And none have ever landed on X9. The atmospheric conditions make it impossible. That's what makes this discovery so unprecedented, Naira continued. The footprints show no signs of degradation. According to our scans, they were made approximately 72 hours ago. Administrator Thex's appendages twitched, a sign of deep concern among his kind. Show me the compositional analysis. The hologram shifted, revealing complex molecular structures. The prints are preserved in a crystalline matrix we've never encountered before, Naira explained. It appears to be some form of self-repairing material that's resistant to the planet's caustic environment. Impossible, Professor Kane declared. No known species possesses such technology. Even the collective hasn't developed anything capable of withstanding X9's atmosphere indefinitely. Administrator Thex raised an appendage for silence. What lies beyond the rock face where the tracks end? That's another anomaly, sir, Naira responded, adjusting the display. Our scans can't penetrate more than a few meters into the rock. There's some kind of interference we can't explain. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, while respected for their adaptability and determination, were considered a relatively young species in the galactic community. The technology required to create these footprints and whatever was blocking their scans was centuries beyond current human capabilities. Prepare an expedition, Administrator Thex announced after several moments of contemplation. We need boots on the ground. First Officer Valenti, you'll lead the team. Sir, Professor Kane protested. The risks are necessary, Thex interrupted. If humans have somehow developed technology that allows them to walk unprotected on X9, we need to know how. And more importantly, why they're here. The preparation for the expedition moved with unprecedented speed. Within 24 hours, Naira found herself aboard a specialized landing craft with a hand-picked team of experts. Dr. Riven, a human xenobiologist who had spent decades studying extreme environments, Lieutenant Commander Zax, an Arcturian security specialist, and Professor Kane, whose expertise in advanced materials couldn't be ignored despite his reservations. As their ship descended through X9's turbulent atmosphere, Naira studied her team. Dr. Riven checked his environmental suit's seals with practiced efficiency, his dark skin contrasting with the suit's pale exterior. Lieutenant Commander Zax maintained a professional stillness, but her crystal-like appendages occasionally flickered with nervous energy. Professor Kane's mechanical body hummed as he ran final diagnostics on their scanning equipment. "Remember," Naira addressed them, "we have exactly 45 minutes before the next ionic storm hits. We locate the prints, follow them to the rock face, and gather as much data as possible. No unnecessary risks." The landing craft touched down with a gentle shudder, its specialized shields barely holding against the caustic atmosphere. As the team stepped onto the planet's surface, the reality of their situation became starkly clear. The landscape before them was a nightmare of twisted rock formations and pools of corrosive liquid, all bathed in the sickly green light of X9's sun filtered through the toxic clouds above. "There," Dr. Riven called out, his voice tense with excitement. The prints. They were even more remarkable in person. Each footprint was perfectly preserved in the crystalline material, which seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. They formed a straight line across the nightmare landscape, showing no signs of hesitation or deviation. These weren't made by someone exploring, Lieutenant Commander Zax observed. Whoever left these knew exactly where they were going. Professor Kane knelt beside one of the prints, his mechanical sensors whirring. A crystalline matrix. It's not just preserving the prints, it's actively maintaining them. Almost as if a distant rumble interrupted his analysis. The storm was approaching faster than predicted. "We need to move," Naira ordered. "Follow the prints to the rock face. Quickly." They rushed across the hostile terrain, following the trail of illuminated footprints. The rock face loomed before them, a sheer wall of black stone that seemed to absorb their scanner beams. As they approached, Dr. Raven suddenly stopped. "Look at this," he called out, pointing to where the prints met the rock. The crystalline material seemed to flow upward into the stone itself, creating a pattern that reminded Naira of circuit pathways. Another rumble, closer this time. The air crackled with building electrical charge. "We're out of time," Naira announced. "Back to the ship. Now." As they retreated, Naira caught a glimpse of something that made her blood freeze. For just a moment, as a flash of lightning illuminated the rock face, she saw what appeared to be words etched into the stone's surface. They were in an ancient human language, one she had studied during her xenorchaeological training. The words read, "To those who follow, prepare for the truth." The team barely made it back to their ship before the storm hit, but Naira's mind was racing. Someone had left those prints, and that message deliberately, knowing they would eventually be discovered. But why? And how did they survive long enough on X9's surface to leave such a precise trail? As their ship ascended through the roiling atmosphere, Naira knew they had stumbled onto something far more significant than a simple mystery. The footprints weren't just evidence of an impossible feat. They were an invitation. And somewhere, beyond that impenetrable rock face, answers awaited them. Administrator Thext studied the three-dimensional reconstruction of the rock face floating before him, his appendages moving in complex patterns that betrayed his agitation. 2 weeks had passed since the initial discovery, and a permanent research base had been established just beyond the reach of X9's most severe storms. "Play it again," he commanded. The holographic display rewound, showing the moment when Dr. Riven had pressed his specialized scanning equipment against the crystalline trail where it met the rock face. The crystal had pulsed with sudden intensity, and for a fraction of a second, the solid rock had become transparent, revealing a vast chamber beyond. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases," Professor Kane reported, his mechanical form projecting additional data streams into the display. "It appears to be drawing power from the planet's core itself, but the mechanics behind it are impossible by our current understanding of physics." Naira stood at the edge of the chamber, her 4 eyes fixed on the ancient human text she'd spotted during their first expedition. More messages had been discovered, each one more puzzling than the last. "To those who follow, prepare for the truth," was just the beginning. The rest formed a complex riddle that seemed to hint at a method of entry. "Dr. Raven," she called out, "what do you make of this sequence?" The professor's mechanical limbs whirred as he made the adjustments. "Ready." Though I must again express my concerns about actively engaging with unknown technology of this sophistication. Noted, Naira responded, her crystalline fingers tracing the sequence one final time. Proceed. The first pulse rippled through the crystalline trail, causing it to flare with brilliant light. The second pulse followed, then the third. With each emission, the crystal's glow intensified, spreading up the rock face in a pattern that matched the circuit-like designs they'd observed. On the seventh pulse, something changed. The rock face shimmered, its solid surface becoming translucent. Beyond it, they could see a vast chamber bathed in soft blue light. By the first stars, Administrator Thex breathed. All 6 sensory appendages extended in astonishment. The rock face had become a doorway, revealing a facility that defied explanation. The chamber beyond was enormous, its walls covered in the same crystalline material that had preserved the footprints. But what caught their attention was the technology. Sleek, curved surfaces housed displays and control interfaces that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. Security Protocol Gamma, Lieutenant Commander Zax announced, taking point as they entered the chamber. No one touches anything without explicit clearance. The facility hummed with quiet energy, responding to their presence. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing diagrams and data streams in a version of human script that predated any known record. "This is wrong," Professor Kane declared, his sensors working overtime to process the information surrounding them. "These systems, they're not just beyond current human capability. They're beyond anything our civilization has achieved, and we've had a million-year head start on humanity." Dr. Riven moved to one of the displays, his eyes wide behind his protective visor. "These aren't human designs," he said quietly. "At least, not entirely. This is human engineering merged with something else, something far more advanced." Nair approached a central platform where a single crystal, larger than the others, pulsed with steady rhythm. As she drew closer, the crystal's light intensified, and a voice filled the chamber, not through sound, but directly in their minds. Protocol 7 initiated. Temporal variance detected. Beginning authentication sequence. The team froze as the facility came fully alive around them. Displays blazed with activity, and the crystalline surfaces began to pulse in complex patterns. Above the central platform, a holographic image took shape, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, but one that showed configurations they didn't recognize. "That's impossible," Administrator Thex declared, moving closer to the display. "These star patterns, they're correct, but this configuration, this is what our galaxy looked like 50 million years ago." The implications hit Naira like a physical force. "We're not looking at technology that's ahead of humanity's current capabilities," she realized. "We're looking at technology from a human civilization that existed long before our own species evolved." The voice spoke again, this time with greater urgency. Temporal authentication confirmed. Warning: Category 1 divergence detected. Emergency protocols engaging. The facility's energy signature suddenly spiked, causing their instruments to scream in protest. The crystalline surfaces flared with blinding light, and new doorways appeared in the chamber walls, leading to previously hidden sections of the facility. First Officer Valenti, Administrator Thex's voice carried the weight of command. "You've led us this far. What are your orders?" Naira stared at the doorways, each seeming to pulse with invitation. The footprints that had led them here hadn't been left by contemporary humans at all. They were a message left by an ancient human civilization, one that had achieved technological advancement far beyond anything they'd imagined possible. But why reveal themselves now? What was the Category 1 divergence the facility had detected? And most importantly, what truth were they supposed to prepare for? "We proceed," she declared, her voice steady despite the magnitude of their discovery. "But carefully. Professor Kane, establish a baseline reading of all systems. Dr. Raven, focus on decoding these displays. Lieutenant Commander Zax, Secure our perimeter and establish a direct link to orbital command. Whatever we're about to discover, the collective needs to be prepared." As her team moved to their tasks, Naira approached the central crystal. The facility had recognized them, had been waiting for them. But as she studied the pulsing light at its core, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just uncovering history. They were about to become part of it. The holographic displays cast shifting shadows across the chamber as Naira and her team worked to understand the facility's vast database. 3 days had passed since their initial entry, and each discovery led to more questions rather than answers. The central crystal continued its steady pulse, but now its light had taken on a reddish tinge that Professor Kane insisted was significant. "The temporal readings are increasing in frequency," he announced, his mechanical limbs interfacing directly with the facility's systems. "Whatever this Category 1 divergence is, it's accelerating." Dr. Raven hadn't slept in 36 hours, his eyes red-rimmed as he pored over the ancient human texts. "I've managed to decode more of their historical records," he said, gesturing to a series of displays. "What we're seeing here, it challenges everything we thought we knew about human evolution." Administrator Thex, who had refused to leave the facility despite the risks, moved to examine the records. "Explain." "These humans," Dr. Raven continued, "they didn't evolve on Earth. According to these records, they originated from a civilization that predates our earliest historical records by millions of years. They called themselves the predecessors." Lieutenant Commander Zax, who had been monitoring the facility's security systems, turned sharply. "That's impossible. We've mapped human genetic evolution back to their primordial origins on Earth." "Because that's what they wanted us to find," Naira interjected, the pieces finally falling into place in her mind. "The predecessors didn't die out. They deliberately seeded Earth with the building blocks of modern humanity." The central crystal pulsed brighter, and the facility's voice filled their minds once again. "Historical archive access granted. Beginning temporal alignment sequence." The chamber's holographic displays merged into a single massive projection, showing scenes from an era none of them had imagined possible. They watched as a civilization of humans, far more advanced than their modern counterparts, spread across the galaxy. Their technology was seamlessly integrated with the crystalline substances they'd encountered, allowing them to reshape matter and energy at will. "They achieved what we would consider technological godhood," Professor Kane observed, his sensors struggling to process the complexity of what they were witnessing. But something went wrong. The projection shifted, showing a dark force spreading across the galaxy, not an enemy army or natural disaster, but something far more insidious. Reality itself seemed to unravel in its wake, erasing entire star systems from existence. "The Category 1 divergence," Administrator Thex whispered. "They encountered something that threatened the very fabric of space-time." The scenes continued to unfold, showing the predecessors' desperate battle against this cosmic entropy. They fought not with weapons, but with vast machines that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. Kepler X9, they realized, wasn't just a hostile planet. It was one of their last fortresses. "They couldn't stop it," Dr. Raven said, his voice heavy with the weight of revelation. "So they created a backup plan. They seeded thousands of worlds with the potential for human life, knowing that eventually one of these civilizations would evolve to a point where they could continue their work." Naira stepped closer to the central crystal, her crystalline fingers resonating with its energy. "But why reveal themselves now? Why leave a trail for us to follow?" The facility's voice responded with unexpected urgency. "Temporal barrier failing. The divergence has returned." Suddenly, the facility's walls became transparent, revealing the true scale of what they had discovered. The crystalline structure extended for miles in every direction, forming a vast lattice that reached deep into the planet's core. At key points throughout the structure, similar chambers housed identical central crystals, all pulsing in perfect synchronization. "It's not just a facility," Professor Kane realized, his mechanical form trembling with the implications. "The entire planet is a machine. a weapon designed to fight whatever caused the divergence. Lieutenant Commander Zax's security systems suddenly blared warnings. Energy spike detected. Something's coming through. The space above the central crystal began to distort, reality folding in on itself as something pushed through from another dimension. The teen watched in stunned silence as a figure emerged. A human woman wearing armor made of the same crystalline material that surrounded them. She looked at them with eyes that held the weight of eons, her voice both physical and mental as she spoke. I am Guardian Ishara of the predecessor defense network, and you have arrived just in time. Just in time for what? Naira managed to ask, even as her sensors registered massive disturbances in the space around Kepler X9. To help us save everything that ever was or will be, Ishara responded, her armor pulsing with energy. The divergence you detected isn't just returning. It's already here. Reality is unraveling faster than last time, and we need your civilization's help to stop it. The facility's displays shifted again, now showing real-time footage of space around them. They watched in horror as entire star systems began to flicker, like lights about to go out. The darkness they had seen in the historical records was spreading once again, threatening to consume everything in its path. The footprints, Naira suddenly understood. They weren't just a message. They were a test. You needed to know if we had evolved enough to understand your technology. Ishara nodded, a sad smile crossing her face, and to see if you had the wisdom to use it properly. The predecessors learned too late that power without understanding leads only to destruction. We need your perspective, your fresh eyes on a problem we've fought for millions of years. Administrator Thex stepped forward, his appendages extended in a gesture of alliance. The collective will help, but we need to understand what we're fighting. What is this divergence? Not what, Ishara corrected, her expression grim. Who? We're fighting the ones who came before us, who believe that reality itself is a mistake to be corrected. And they've almost succeeded twice before. The central crystal's pulse quickened, and new alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Above them, through the facility's transparent walls, they could see Kepler X9's toxic storms gathering with impossible intensity. We have no more time for explanations, Ishara announced. The final battle for existence itself is beginning. Will you help us? Naira looked at her team, seeing in their expressions the same mix of fear and determination she felt. They had come seeking answers about a set of impossible footprints. Instead, they had found themselves at the crossroads of history itself. We'll help, she declared, speaking for all of them. Tell us what you need us to do. Ishara's crystalline armor flared with power as she raised her hand, causing the facility's systems to surge with new energy. Then let me show you what the predecessors really were, and what humanity was always meant to become. The chamber erupted with light, and the true scope of their destiny began to unfold. The transformation of Kepler X9 was breathtaking to witness. As Ishara activated the planet's ancient systems, the crystalline network that threaded through its core blazed with power, turning the toxic world into a beacon visible across light years of space. The facility around them shifted and expanded, revealing layers of technology that had lain dormant for millions of years. The predecessors built this facility as their last hope, Ishara explained as she led them through newly revealed chambers. What you've seen so far was merely the outer shell. This is our true fortress. Professor Kane's mechanical form struggled to process the readings from the expanded facility. The energy output, it's beyond anything we thought possible. The crystalline matrix isn't just conducting power, it's amplifying it exponentially. They entered a vast spherical chamber at the heart of the facility. Suspended in its center was a construction that defied description, a geometric structure that seemed to exist in more dimensions than their eyes could process. The crystalline surfaces around it displayed real-time data about the spreading divergence. This is the Nexus, Ishara said, her armor resonating with the chamber's energy. From here, we can see the true nature of our enemy, and of reality itself. Dr. Riven approached one of the displays, his expression a mixture of awe and horror. These patterns, they're showing quantum-level disruptions in the fabric of space-time. The divergence isn't just destroying matter. It's unwriting the laws of physics themselves. Administrator Thex's appendages twisted in distress as he studied the data. Who could possess such power? Who would want to unmake reality itself? We called them the abstractionists, Ishara replied, her voice heavy with ancient memory. They were the first intelligence to emerge in our universe, and they came to believe that consciousness itself was a cosmic mistake. In their view, awareness brings suffering, and the only solution is to return everything to a state of pure mathematical abstraction. Lieutenant Commander Zax's security systems registered new disturbances. More systems are failing. 3-star clusters in the Carina arm have already vanished. Naira watched as the displays showed the spreading darkness. But why did the predecessors seed Earth with new human life? Why not simply preserve their own civilization? Ishara touched the central geometric structure, causing it to rotate in impossible ways. Because we discovered something profound about human consciousness, something that makes us unique among all species we've encountered. Human minds can perceive and interact with quantum states in ways that shouldn't be possible. We don't just observe reality. We help shape it. The double-slit experiment, Dr. Raven whispered, understanding dawning in his eyes. The observer effect. We've known for centuries that consciousness influences quantum outcomes, but we never understood why. Precisely, Ishara confirmed. The predecessors didn't seed Earth because they failed. They did it because they needed humanity to evolve again, naturally, in response to the universe's own rhythms. Each new generation of humanity brings fresh perspectives, new ways of perceiving and influencing reality itself. The chamber shuddered as another wave of temporal distortion washed over the planet. The geometric structure in the center of the room began to pulse with increasing urgency. But we need your help, Ishara continued, turning to face them directly. The abstractionists are stronger this time. They've learned from their previous failures. We need your civilization's unique insights, your different way of seeing things, to have any hope of stopping them. Professor Kane's mechanical limbs interfaced with the chamber systems. The crystalline technology. It's not just tools or weapons, is it? It's a medium for focusing consciousness itself. Yes, Ishara smiled. Your people's crystalline biology makes you uniquely suited to interface with our systems. Just as Dr. Raven's human consciousness can help perceive quantum states, your crystalline forms can help channel and direct the energies we need. Administrator Thex stepped forward. The collective will need to be convinced. This goes beyond anything we've encountered. Show them, Naira suddenly said, her 4 eyes fixed on the geometric structure. Show them what's at stake. Ishara nodded and touched the structure again. The chamber's displays merged into a single vast projection, showing them the full scope of what they faced. They saw the abstractionists' true form, beings of pure mathematical concept, moving through reality like equations through a universal computer. Where they passed, the rich complexity of existence was reduced to cold, abstract formulas. But they also saw hope. The projection showed them how human consciousness, combined with the crystalline technology of both the predecessors and the Arcturians, could create something new, a way of perceiving and influencing reality that even the abstractionists couldn't predict or control. We don't have much time, Ishara warned as the chamber's alarms intensified. The divergence is approaching a critical point. Once it passes that threshold, reality itself will begin to unravel faster than we can track. Naira looked at her team, seeing in their faces the same determination she felt. They had come seeking answers about mysterious footprints and found themselves at the crossroads of existence itself. The weight of history, past and future, pressed upon them all. "What do you need us to do?" she asked, her crystalline form resonating with the chamber's energy. Ishara's armor pulsed with power as she approached the geometric structure. "First, we need to show you what humanity was truly meant to be, and what we can all become together." The chamber's light intensified as Ishara began the process that would either save reality itself or witness its final unraveling. The true revelation was about to begin. Around them, the crystalline networks pulse with increasing power, and the force that had once walked across an impossible planet in human form prepared to show them humanity's ultimate destiny. The Nexus chamber thrummed with energy as Ishara initiated the transformation sequence. The geometric structure at its center had become a constellation of pure light, each facet reflecting possibilities that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions. Time itself seemed to slow as the process began. "What you're about to experience," Ishara explained, her crystalline armor now fully integrated with the chamber systems, "is what the predecessors discovered at the height of their civilization, the true nature of human consciousness and its role in the universe." Professor Kane's mechanical sensors registered an astronomical surge in quantum activity. "The energy patterns, they're rewriting themselves faster than I can track. It's as if reality itself is being refracted through millions of conscious minds simultaneously." The transformation began with Dr. Riven. As the only modern human present, he was the first to feel the change. His form became suffused with crystalline energy, not consuming his humanity, but enhancing it, revealing layers of perception that had always existed but remained dormant. "I can see them," he gasped, his eyes now shimmering with the same ethereal light as the geometric structure. "The abstractionists, they're not just unmaking reality, they're trying to solve it, to reduce it to its simplest form. But they don't understand. Complexity isn't a flaw, it's the whole point." The effect spread to the others. Naira's crystalline form resonated with new frequencies, each facet of her being becoming a lens through which she could perceive different layers of reality. Lieutenant Commander Zax's security systems evolved into something far more profound, not just monitoring space and time, but understanding their fundamental interconnectedness. Administrator Thex's appendages wove patterns in the air that left traces of possibility in their wake. The footprints, he realized, they weren't just leading us here. They were showing us the path humanity walked before, and the path we must all walk together now. Ishara nodded as the transformation continued. The predecessors discovered that consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex systems, it's the fundamental force that gives meaning to existence. The abstractionists seek pure mathematical perfection, but they fail to understand that meaning requires context, and context requires consciousness to perceive it. The chamber's displays showed the divergences advance, but now they could see it for what it truly was, not just an unraveling of reality, but an attempt to impose absolute simplicity on a universe that demanded complexity. The abstractionists' mathematical perfection was a dead end, a reduction of infinite possibility to a single sterile equation. "Now," Ishara commanded, her form blazing with power, "reach out with your combined consciousness. Show them what they've forgotten." The team joined their enhanced awareness, their different perspectives merging into something greater than the sum of its parts. Through Dr. Raven's human intuition, they perceived the quantum dance of possibility. Through Naira's crystalline nature, they channeled and focused these possibilities into new patterns. Professor Kane's mechanical precision gave structure to their efforts, while Lieutenant Commander Zax's security protocols helped maintain their collective integrity. The geometric structure responded to their unified consciousness, each facet becoming a window through which they could influence reality itself. They reached out across space and time, not fighting the abstractionists directly, but showing them what they had forgotten: the beauty of complexity, the necessity of consciousness, the profound truth that meaning emerges from the very chaos they sought to eliminate. Where the divergence touched, they responded not with resistance but with revelation. They showed the abstractionists memories of sunrise over distant worlds, the laughter of children discovering something new, the moment of understanding when a complex problem finally becomes clear. They showed them art and music, love and loss, the entire magnificent spectrum of conscious experience that gave context and meaning to the mathematical perfection they pursued. "They're responding," Ishara announced, her voice carrying both triumph and wonder. "They're beginning to remember." The displays showed the divergence halting its advance, the darkness that had threatened to consume everything beginning to recede. The abstractionists, confronted with the full spectrum of conscious experience, were awakening to a truth they had forgotten millions of years ago, that the purpose of existence wasn't to solve it, but to experience it. As the transformation completed, the team found themselves forever changed. They had become something new, not purely human, not purely Arcturian, but a bridge between different ways of perceiving and engaging with reality. The footprints that had led them here had been the first step on a path to a new kind of existence. "What happens now?" Naira asked, her enhanced consciousness still adjusting to its new capabilities. Ishara smiled, her form beginning to fade as her task reached completion. "Now you continue what the predecessors began. Not just preserving consciousness, but helping it grow and evolve. The abstractionists won't be the last challenge reality faces. The universe needs conscious beings who can perceive its full complexity, who can help it maintain the delicate balance between pattern and possibility." The geometric structure pulsed one final time, its light spreading outward through the crystalline networks that spanned Kepler X9. The planet itself was transforming, its hostile environment becoming a crucible for new forms of consciousness and understanding. "The footprints remain," Administrator Thex observed, watching as the crystalline trails continued to pulse with inner light. "Others will follow them. And you will be here to guide them," Ishara replied, her form now barely visible. "The predecessors seeded Earth with human potential, and now you will help seed the galaxy with something even greater, the potential for consciousness itself to evolve beyond what any single species could achieve alone." As Ishara's form finally faded, the team stood in the transformed chamber, their enhanced consciousness perceiving layers of reality that had always existed but remained hidden until now. The mysterious footprints that had led them here had been just the beginning. Before them stretched an infinite path of discovery and evolution, not just for humanity or the Arcturians, but for consciousness itself.